So here we are in the seeding greenhouse. April 15th, we've got some cabbages that have been potted on into their 2.5-inch pots. And we've got some nasturtiums, and we're moving other things up so they get more light. We've got zinnias and some flowers. And we've got some peas growing. These are all stuff sown directly into 6-packs. Sweet peas. We've got some herbs sown into the mother flat inserts. We've got a few citrus trees growing. And so there's some beets. We've got our brassicas, all different varieties of kale, and there's some chard mixed in with that, and some broccoli. And we've got different varieties of lettuces sown into 6-packs. And in the germination box, I have another flush of basil seeded into those flats. Some peppers into that. This is what our tomatoes and tomatillos look like right now. So they've been sown quite heavily into these mother flat inserts. And so next week, Carolyn and I will do a video on how we prick out our tomatoes and pot them on into 4-inch pots. We've got some onions and some leeks still in there, just kind of encouraging faster growth. And there's some more basil down at the end there. And stuff is along the top that we're encouraging, that's already germinated, to have more light. So everything's growing quite nicely in here. It's an awesome time of year. Things have really warmed up, and all that sunlight is just creating such a flush of growth. So April 15th, that's what the seeding greenhouse looks like. So today Carolyn and I are potting on our Tierra cabbage. So we thought it would be fun to show you guys how we do that. So we direct seeded into this 72 cell tray, the cabbage. And the technique is called pricking out. So what we're gonna do is you grab the seedling gently and you kind of just pinch the bottom of the cell while you lightly tug the cabbage, and it should just pop out. I like having the cell tray on its side and let gravity kind of also be at play. So I'm pinching the bottom, tugging the cabbage, and it plops out. So that technique's called pricking out. So once they're pricked out of the cell trays, we're then going to pot them on into these 2.5-inch pots. And so it's not absolutely necessary to prick out from the 72s into the 2.5-inch pots and then put them into the garden. But I find that the cabbages, being heavy feeders, they absolutely love it and they always do really well. And that allows the cabbage baby to develop a much larger root ball before it goes into the garden. So this is what the root ball looks like when it comes out of the cell. Totally fine to go directly in the garden, but we pot them on and then it has this bigger root ball, which is allowing it to access more nutrients once it goes into the soil. And so we've got, this is what we're going to be potting. The soil mix is our own aged compost mixed with the sunshine mix. So there's the sterilized potting mix mixed in with our own personal compost, aged compost. And so what we're going to do is we put a little bit of soil into our pot. And then these are the cotyledons. So you can see the difference between the true leaves and the first leaves to emerge. So these are the cotyledons. And cabbage, most brassicas will actually root along the stem. So we're always trying to bury them deeper to encourage more rooting. So what I do is I actually remove the cotyledons. You can put them into a plate or a bowl and then toss these into a salad after. They're totally edible and super delicious. So I pinch the cotyledons. And you just want to have a little bit of soil in the bottom so that the root ball's not touching the plastic. And then you're going to hold the transplant, and then you're just going to fill around all the way up the stem right until the first set of leaves. And I know it looks like you're burying the plant pretty deep. You don't want to bury the grow tip. So this is the grow tip of the cabbage plant here. So you just want to make sure that that's not covered. It's lightly tamped down, and then we'll moisten the entire flat after. Then we'll grow the little baby cabbages in here for probably just about 2 weeks, or until I tip this out and see how much roots have established, and then we'll plant them into the ground. So that's how we prick out our cabbages and get them ready for the next stage of their growing life. So this is our favorite tool of the week. It's called a bed preparation rake, and it's got a 30-inch blade along the front, and it's got little plastic tubes that go over the rake tines, and you can space them at 6 inches, 8 inches, or a foot. And it's a great way to mark out where your transplants are gonna go in the bed. So you take the rake and you run it down the bed lengthwise, and then you take the rake and you run it across the bed towards yourself. And where the two lines meet is where you're going to put your transplant into the ground. It's absolutely brilliant, and what used to take me half an hour now takes me 5 minutes. So you can get these bed preparation rakes from Johnny's Seeds online. They're about $190, which is an investment, but it's really sped up the process on how I space my seedlings and get them into the ground. I absolutely love it. So you can see here that I've dug my holes where the bed preparation rake has marked them, and I've done 12-inch spacing, which is 1 foot, for the kale transplants to be put in. So you can space kale at a few different spaces, but I'm doing a 12-inch spacing outside so that I can get big leaf kale. In Abuela, one of our greenhouses, I've put in transplants 8 inches apart so I can do them more as baby leaf kale. You can also direct seed kale right into rows and do that as a baby leaf kale cut and come again. So you can see here that the kale transplants are now in the ground, and I've actually covered them with summer reemay just to give them that extra protection at night because it's still quite cold at our place, and that'll be on there until the kale transplants get nice and big. But I've actually been experimenting with leaving the summer reemay on my brassicas just to prevent cabbage white. So we will see how that goes this year. So this is tiny to date. The arugula is coming in nicely on the left-hand side, and we'll be harvesting it next week. And the cilantro and the second succession of arugula are coming along nicely. So in Abuela this week, I pricked out our spinach babies and I transplanted them into Abuela, the greenhouse, and I spaced them at 6-inch spacing so that I can get nice big spinach leaves. You can also direct seed spinach as more of a smaller leaf cut and come again. So you can see here that I've lined the outside of the bed with crushed eggshells that I saved all winter, just to kind of act as a little bit of a protection barrier against slugs. And there's Gracie Girl patrolling the farm with us. I also have seeded directly into the ground in Abuela green onions, and so they have all germinated and are coming up nicely. This is our beautiful flowering cherry tree. I've never seen it with so many blossoms on it. It's absolutely a buzzing highway for all the bees right now. And our orchard is just about ready to be in full bloom. So we've got the plum tree actually is in full bloom right now, as well as the cherry tree. The apples and the pears are soon to follow, which is really exciting. It looks so beautiful when it's all in bloom. And also this week, Carolyn and I composted the strawberries. So Carolyn took aged compost and she put a handful underneath the tarp around each of the strawberries. And then at another time, I'll come by and I'll liquid feed the strawberry patch with kelp to encourage flowering. So this is the garlic patch this week, and it is just loving all this sunshine. And here is the rhubarb patch to date. It's also loving the sunshine and the aged manure that we fed it with. And there's no Phacelia germination underneath the raspberries yet, but I'm hoping to see them any day now. Behold, the asparagus is finally showing itself. So Carolyn and I had our first asparagus feast the other night. Yummy, yummy, super delicious. Looking forward to more harvests. And you guys can see that those fat spears are the ones we'll be harvesting, and those skinny ones that are poking out behind the nice fatties, those are asparagus seedlings that have germinated on their own by the female plant dropping its seeds. So those are 2 years old, and Carolyn and I are going to dig those out and propagate them. We've never done that before, but hey, why not? So we'll dig out those little seedlings and we will plant them in their own bed about 3 feet apart, and we'll just see what happens. We won't be harvesting from them for a few years, but once they start to become nice and fat, then we can. So I dug 420 feet of trenches today, and thankfully I had my trusty Mantis tiller, the only time I really till on the farm, to dig these furrows. So the tutorial video on how we dug the trenches is to come, as well as planting the potatoes. But at least we've got the first step done, which is digging our trenches, and I tried to dig down about a foot using the Mantis. So we are super excited to welcome 6 new members to our farm family. We picked up the 6 ISA Browns last Friday, and it's been a lot of fun watching the chickens. They're actually pretty entertaining, and also a bit of a learning curve, but I'm super excited and I look forward to the eggs to come. So that's a week on the farm and what it looks like to date and what we've been up to. I hope you enjoyed my video.